got into the full Hong Kong team for the first time, scored on my debut against Iran, and yeah, it kind of just the momentum kept going from there. To be selected for the full national team, I think that was obviously very special. That was always a massive goal of mine as well, was to represent Hong Kong and play for the full men's national team. But I always felt, when I was playing well in Hong Kong, I always felt that number 9 shirt would be mine eventually. That's something I always firmly believed. And when I finally got that call up, and I remember when I went into the first game against Iran, one of the best teams in Asia, we traveled to Bahrain. Unfortunately, no fans because of COVID, so that was kind of disappointing. But I kind of didn't know what my role would be as a first-time debutant in the Hong Kong team. And I remember the coach, Mishu, at that point, he sat me down and he brought me into the hotel where he was staying at in Hong Kong, and we had a long meeting for about 2 hours. I was still young at this time, and he was basically saying like I would be the main man, and he wanted to build the team around me. So hearing that was very special, and I was kind of taken back as well because I wasn't really expecting it at that point.
Welcome to Sporting Purpose, Dream, Believe, Achieve. Join us today as we dive into the incredible journey of Matt Orr, high-profile star in the Chinese Super League and the number 9 for the Hong Kong national team. Matt shares his story of setting ambitious goals, embodying dedication and discipline, and the influence of his father. He reflects on his early childhood memories, transitioning from a defender to a striker, and the sacrifices he's made along the way. Matt highlights his career achievements, including Hong Kong's historic win over China. Tune in to hear about his experiences in the Asian Cup and the Chinese Super League and his future aspirations. Don't miss this inspiring episode with Matt Orr. Joseph Onwing Guy, Leho Ma.
I'm very good, thank you, mate.
Welcome, mate. Welcome to Sporting Purpose. Thanks for coming on today. What is purpose to you, and how does it relate to sport?
Firstly, thanks for having me on. It's a pleasure. What is sporting purpose? I think for me, sporting purpose is setting long and short-term goals and just working hard every day to try and get closer to achieving them.
And what do you think are the main values of sport for you?
I think the main values of sport is dedication, consistency, discipline, and self-belief. I'd say for those four attributes, I'd say are probably the biggest values for me, and have massive influence in my career.
And you've had a very successful career so far, currently playing in the Chinese Super League and representing the Hong Kong national team. But I want to go back to the start of your journey, back to your childhood. So you were born and raised in Hong Kong. What are your memories of sport growing up as a child?
I started playing football probably when I was about 4 years old. I had a ball at my feet. My dad was actually a professional back in New Zealand. And he represented New Zealand. Yeah, he represented New Zealand a few times. So he was a massive reason and influence to why I ever got into football in the first place. And he was always a big supporter and advocate of me to continue to pursue my footballing dreams. So, as early as 4 years old, I would say I started to have a ball at my feet, and I've loved it ever since.
Was it always football, or did you play any other sports along the way?
Football has always been number one, but I think, growing up in Hong Kong, I was always trying different sports. I used to play a bit of tennis. I was actually representing Hong Kong in rugby till I was about 14, 15. So I was on the football national team and the Hong Kong rugby national team as well. And when I reached about 14, 15, I kind of had to pick one, but football was always the primary sport for me, yeah.
They don't really complement each other too well, rugby and football at that age.
No, I remember when I was 14, 15, that's when I started to run into a few complications and kind of had to make a choice. Every other sport, I was playing tennis with mates, so I used to play a few tennis tournaments just with some friends. We'd go and play for fun and get bad. And then played golf with my dad a lot. I think it's a great sport to bond, and I've shared some really nice memories playing golf with my dad, and that's something we still like to do quite often. So I think golf
What are
is
you
a great
playing off
sport
of
as
in the
well.
golf these days?
Unfortunately, I haven't been able to be too consistent recently because I've been so busy. But when I was at the peak of my game, playing quite regularly, I could scrape a 12 handicap, which
All
is all
right, that's
right.
not too shabby, mate. I'd only dream of getting to there.
I'll take it.
Go, Jumping back to the beginning of your journey. Sorry, I went a bit off track, but going back to the football. So you started playing around 4, and what clubs did you play for in the youth setup? Is there any particular highlights or any moments where that kind of really stood out and helped you define yourself as a player from that early age?
So the first team I ever started on was Football Academy, Arsenal soccer schools with Ed Fordham, and I joined that academy with a few of my really good mates, and we were there from about I think 5 or 6 to 11 years old. And just when I went to 11 years old, Kitchee Academy had just started up, the Barcelona Academy, and they had just started doing trials in Hong Kong. And my parents caught wind of this, and a few other parents on the Football Academy team as well, and we decided to give it a crack. And we ended up going to the trials, and they really liked us, told us to come and join. And this was kind of the first insight into local football in Hong Kong, because the Arsenal Football Academy, was kind of just there weren't too many local players. It was kind of just against other expat teams and DB Dragons, football club, those kind of teams. But at that stage, they weren't implemented into the local football scheme in Hong Kong. So the Kitchee Academy allowed us to play against local teams, and which happened to be a much wider community, many more teams, many more players. So we decided to leave the Football Academy and join the Kitchee Academy, just because I think it gave us more footballing opportunities and more competition. So that's kind of what was necessary at the time. So I spent 2 years at the Kitchee Academy, and realized that I was quite dominant on the pitch. Maybe it wasn't enough of a challenge for me. So me and my parents spoke for a long time and kind of decided that was the opportunity to try and leave Hong Kong and find that new challenge and push myself, because I've always wanted to be a professional footballer. So we thought it was necessary to get out my comfort zone a bit and see what the real footballing world was like, because Hong Kong is quite a small bubble and there's not too much, the level isn't the best. So yeah.
So it was 2013 you left Kitchee to go to the
Yes.
States. And
Yeah.
at that point, you mentioned dreaming of being a professional footballer. When did you first have that dream? Was that from the first time you kicked a ball?
I mean, it was definitely from a young age. I wouldn't say, maybe not from 4, because you're still kind of naive and young at that point. You kind of just enjoy playing with the ball. But I'd say the biggest wake up moment for me, where I was like, this is what I want to do, was in 2006, when Liverpool came to Hong Kong just after winning the Champions League, and they played against the Hong Kong national team. And I was very fortunate that my dad managed to sort out me to walk on the pitch with Steven Gerrard as one of the mascots.
Wow, I didn't know that. All right.
Yeah, it was unbelievable, mate. So yeah, I was one of the kids who got the opportunity to walk on the pitch with the team, and Steven Gerrard at that point my dad was a massive Liverpool fan, so that fell on me, and I was a massive Liverpool fan, so Steven Gerrard was kind of like my idol. Yeah, I got to walk on the pitch with him, and this was when they just won the Champions League, so all the players were there: Xabi Alonso, Sam Hippier, Jamie Carragher, Milan Barros, Steve Finnan, John Arisa, and I was just stood there as an 8-year-old, just looking at all these guys like, this is insane. So I'll never forget that night, anyways. And that was I feel like that was kind of the spark where I was like, this is so cool. This is what I want to do. So
And that's the first time.
maybe, yeah, I guess the first time I can remember, but that was a pretty major turning point in me really wanting to become a footballer, I think.
At that point, you're dreaming of becoming it. Did you ever actually? When did you finally believe, that I can do this? Like, I am going to be a professional footballer.
I think when I was 11, 12, 13 in Hong Kong, when I was really, really dominant in my age group, that's when I really felt like I had the ability. I was better than everyone else, not in a cocky way, but I just really felt like I could do something in this game. Because I didn't feel like playing in Hong Kong at that point. I didn't really feel like there was too much competition. I was going out and scoring, 4 or 5 goals every game. I mean, that's why we decided to leave in the end. Yeah, I wasn't being challenged enough, but I think that's kind of where I really felt like I was a little bit different, and maybe I could start to do something in this game in the future.
And so you've gone from Kitchee, you've gone to IMG Academy in Florida. How did you make that jump? How did you make the bridge that gap? And tell us a little bit about the experience over there.
Yeah, so IMG Academy is a huge sports academy in Florida. It's not just football, it's tennis, American football, basketball, baseball, and they've so many young aspiring athletes who go over there, and they've got a fantastic system, probably world-class facilities, maybe the best in the world, and they just support athletes to go and chase their dreams. So we thought this was a great place for me to go and try my trade, but also be a good place to set me up for the future, because the college US system was something my parents were very fond of, because you're playing your sport at a high level as well as getting an education, which is very important in case, worst case, you don't make it, you still have that degree you can fall back on. So that was kind of where they were pushing me towards. So that's why they decided America over, Europe or anywhere else in the world. So yeah, I went over there for 3 years, and yeah, it was literally every day, wake up in the morning, around 7:30, train. After training, you go gym, or you go nutrition class, or you maybe you get an introduction to mental conditioning. So they're really introducing you to kind of the life of a professional athlete and different aspects of sport, just not on the pitch. And then in the afternoon, you'd go to school and do your core subjects. So it'd just be like math, science, English. You wouldn't be doing any art or drama or music, nothing like that.
So it sounds like a big jump in terms of, the professionalism, and it's like, more of an elite academy. Was there also a big jump in competition and the level of player you're up against at this point?
Yeah. I mean, that was a massive shock to me, because I mean, when you're coming from a place where you're so dominant, suddenly I was getting thrown into a new team, a new environment, where the mentality was completely different. First of all, there was so many more kids, so much more competition, so many more people who wanted to make it. It was quite ruthless, and I wasn't the best player anymore, So that was kind of new to me after spending so many years in Hong Kong, where I was comfortable and the best player, and all eyes were on me, to IMG, where I wasn't the best player anymore and I was just another number. So I think that was very necessary for me. That was very necessary for me, because it was a big wake up call, because I got a kick in the ass, and I was like, all right, this is real football. This is the real footballing world. This is not the Hong Kong bubble anymore. And, you're going to have to work hard, and you're going to have to differentiate yourself from the rest, and you're going to have to prove yourself every day.
How did you differentiate yourself? How did you jump yourself to that next level that you hadn't been able to reach before?
Yeah, I think it just comes down to how bad you want it. It was just about working hard. So I just remember training more than the rest. Would be training in the morning, and then would go to school in the afternoon, and then after school sometimes, because luckily in Florida, daylight savings, it doesn't get dark till like 9 p.m., 10 p.m. sometimes, and I've got 30 of the nicest grass pitches out the backyard. So after school, I'd go with a mate and we'd go ping balls, do some finishing, just whatever. I remember just putting in extras. And it was just really about making the most out of the resources around me. I was fortunate. I had some great coaches who had good careers, learning off them as much as possible. introduction to nutrition and mental conditioning. So trying to use that as much as possible, because all the resources were there in front of you, right? So it was just, at that point, it was just making the most out of it. And then, yeah, just that overall hunger to try and prove yourself every day and perform as much as you can and just be better than your competition. I think that's what real football and sport is about. And, I was introduced to that at an early age, which you don't get in Hong Kong. So I think that was very important for me.
How important was your dad in terms of that? Because you mentioned he was a professional footballer. Did he guide you, and was he one of your role models? Was there other people who
Yeah.
influenced you?
No, at that stage, he's always been my biggest supporter, him and my mum. And he's always helped me when times are tough. And he used to come to every game, try and give me tips after the game. We used to play the same position. He was a left mid, and that point, at that age, I was still a left winger. So yeah, he's always been there, just trying to give me as much guidance as possible, and just someone to lean on, when times get tough. So yeah, he's always been there supporting me. So yeah, that's been very helpful.
And in terms of belief, so you've gone from this IMG Academy, and then you've made your way to San Francisco. You're playing for the university team and Syracuse, both D1 sides. What did you have any setbacks, any obstacles along the way there? What role did support systems play for you? Can you tell us a little bit about that next step then?
Yeah, look, there's I think there's been so many setbacks throughout my career at different stages. So I went to, I think the first biggest challenge that I had when I first went to San Francisco was, so I got recruited on a scholarship from IMG to San Francisco as a striker. I showed up. I remember it was the first or second session I was there. We were doing finishing, and I was finishing the ball really well, scored a bunch of goals. And the head coach drags me aside, and I'm expecting him to say, "Oh, like you've got a really nice left foot," or whatever. Like, he comes up to me and goes, "Have you ever played centre back before?" And I was taken back. I was like, "What? No, obviously not." And he was like, "Yeah, we really like your left foot, and my system. We want to be playing out the back, and we're in need of a ball playing left centre back. And we really like your profile. You got good size, good physicality. We want to try you there." And I didn't really know what to think, but when you go into a big Division 1 program as a first year, all you want to do is play, and to be able to get minutes as a first year is really tough. A lot of people were telling me that. So at that point, I was kind of just like, whatever you need from me for the team, I'm willing to do that role. That's fine. So luckily at that point, I had a few months before the season, because I came at a time where it wasn't in season yet. So the assistant coach he had a very good career in the MLS, and he played for the American national team as well, and he was a centre back. So I spoke and worked with him very closely a lot, and he really believed in me and said, with my physicality, with my technical ability, he thinks he can turn me into a very good centre back. And he believed I could be a professional in the end, because that was my ultimate goal. So yeah, I ended up playing the full season at centre back for the first time ever as a defender. Ended up getting into the freshman team of the year for my conference, which is like the best first year players in the league. I was part of that team as a centre back, which is quite funny. So yeah, I think that adjustment to being a defender was really hard, and I kind of took it in my stride. I when I look back on it, I'm quite pleased and proud of myself with how I dealt with that situation. But it ended up it started well, and then ended up kind of flipping around. And
So how did you flip it? How did you get back to where you wanted to be up?
So I didn't go back to an attacking player until I actually finished college and went back to Kitchee and signed with Kitchee. And I spent a few months at Kitchee, and that's when that's when the coach really encouraged me to change back to as a striker. But for example, my second year at San Francisco, I moved from centre back to left back. We won the league, or won the conference, for the first time in a long time. So I had 2 very good years. The third year, I didn't have a good year. I think that's when my defensive weaknesses got found out, and I wasn't. Yeah, my defensive responsibilities weren't great. Ended up falling out with San Francisco because we disagreed on a few things, and ended up. Luckily, I got an opportunity to go to Syracuse in the ACC, probably the most prominent conference, and at a very big school. The coach there really believed in me and wanted to bring me over, so he gave me that opportunity. Yeah, and then went over there for my last year and played as a wingback, which I think suited me much more because less defending and more attacking. But even then, I didn't get the minutes I would have liked because I think defensively I was still quite weak. So it was an up and down through college in terms of my success and the career I had at college. And I think the hardest thing for me was just coming in as a striker and then being thrown around as a centre back, a left back, a wing back, and having to adjust positions because the roles are so different when you're going from a striker to a defender. So that was tough.
It's interesting how you approach that. Obviously you didn't want to be a centre back, but you wanted to help the team, and you knew it'd probably be better, more beneficial to your career. But you've turned that moment of weakness into an opportunity to learn. You've gone off, spoke to people who've already played that position. And my question is, do you think that actually helped you in the long run, knowing, because obviously as a striker, you're playing against centre backs. So do you feel like that insight into how they think and what they do, did that help you get to another level again?
Yeah, look, I've been asked that question a few times if being a defender has helped me as a striker. And I honestly think it has, because at that time, I was putting in so much work to try and learn this new position. So I was watching so much footage of centre backs, of defenders, listening to my coach, who was a great defender in his time. And I was learning so many defensive tips and learning defensive knowledge on how to be a defender that now when I play as a striker, I know what positions or what things I can do to make that centre back feel uncomfortable. Where I should stand, what kind of runs I should make, where he either doesn't know where I am or he's going to be thinking about me and forget what's going on over there. Yeah, so I think that definitely helped in a few ways. And yeah, I think it just made in terms of things I could do as a striker, but also I think that whole experience really helped me grow as a person and, help me develop as a footballer as well. Because, that I think when the coach asked me if I could play as a defender, I think, I could have gone one or two ways. I could have been like, just gone, no, I want to fight to be a striker. And at that point, we had two strikers who were about to go into their last year of uni, and they were very established in the team, good players. So that would have been very tough for me. Or I could accept that I could try and play as a defender, maybe fail, but do a role for the team that he wanted me to do. So I think that just my approach to that was important, and helped me deal with future setbacks or similar situations.
And that's a form of sacrifice in a way. You've sacrificed yourself for the team, and you've sacrificed your position, your favorite position. What other sacrifices have you had to make along this journey to get to where you are now?
I mean, a lot. I think the biggest thing was just leaving Hong Kong when I was 14 years old. Being away from my family for the first time, being away from my friends, loved ones. When I was there at IMG, you're in an environment where every day is kind of the same, and you're within this campus where you're not really allowed out. You don't have freedom because the area where IMG is actually, it's quite a dangerous area. So they don't really let you go out whenever you want, anything like that. So I think I missed a lot of family time. I missed a lot of, good times with my friends, holidays, because I was over there trying to chase this dream. So I think that was a big sacrifice that I had to make. Miss growing up with my sisters as well, because you only get to see them limited times in the year. That's definitely the biggest sacrifice I think I've had to make, is just being away from family and loved ones from such a young age.
And I guess another part of belief and, making it as a pro is, consistency, routines, habits. What sort of habits or routines have you formed along the way to help you achieve success?
Yeah, look, now to where I am now, I went from almost having, or IMG, they kind of force like you into this routine because your schedule is given to you and so structured, but you kind of learn along the way things that work and things that don't work for you. I think everyone has their optimal kind of routine and structure that they manage to get their best performance out of. For me now, I would say my routine every day is I like to have a routine because I feel like when I'm in that routine is when I'm performing the best in training and performing the best in games and just feeling like I'm at the prime of uh just feeling my best in my best condition. Every day I like to wake up to sunlight first thing. So I don't sleep with the curtains like fully drawn. I sleep with them where they're still a bit open. So first thing in the morning I'm up with the sunlight. I think it's good to get sun into the eyes early. Hop in a cold shower, and then either I'll have a bit of breakfast after that. Yeah, I like to either go to yoga if there's a yoga class in the morning, or I'll do my own stretching. Um, I'll try and fit in 5 to 10 minutes of meditation or mindfulness every day as well, either before bed or after lunch, just whenever. And yeah, we
How
don't
do you
in
do that?
here. For me, I mean, I think everyone has their own way. For me, I like to lay down, and just no sounds, no nothing, and just focus on my breathing, and kind of just firstly focus on my breathing, and then let my mind kind of take me wherever. But I obviously you try and control your thoughts as much as possible, and I really think that's had a correlation with what I've been able to control on the pitch, because on the pitch, I think you need to be able to control your emotions. That's very important. And I think I used to be quite emotional on the pitch. I'd be quite reactive to things I've done. Like, for example, if I missed a big chance, that could ruin me for the rest of the game because I'll just be so focused on that chance. And the next one would come and I'll completely bottle it or not react in the way I'd want to. But I think from me being able to do the meditation and mindfulness and control my thoughts, I've been able to forget things on the pitch very quickly and focus on the next play, or just understand what's going through my mind and deal with things much better.
Meditation and Vegemite, the keys to your success, eh?
Yeah.
All right, so let's jump into some of the achievements and some of the big accomplishments so far in your career. So we've already kind of in your story, we've got a little bit. We've got to Syracuse and San Francisco, and now we've arrived back into Hong Kong, and we've got a professional contract with Kitchee at this point.
Yeah.
And how did that develop from there with Kitchee?
Yeah, so after I was done in the States, I had to make a decision where it was either stay in the States. I had opportunities to play in the USL, so not the MLS, but the USL below the league below the MLS, or come back to Kitchee, which I'd spent so many years at before. The technical director, I was always in contact with him, and every time I was off and came back to Hong Kong, I'd be training with the first team, so I maintained that relationship. And I just thought for me in the long run, coming back and playing in Asia would benefit me the most and would be the best move for my career. So I ended up coming back to Kitchee, signing a 2-year contract. Yeah, and I had a very tough first 6 months there because I came back I was very determined on staying as a defender, but the coach there was very fond of me as going back to a striker. So that was so tough because I wasn't playing for Kitchee because I was so caught in between these two positions, and it was just all this effort and work that I'd put into to try and become a defender. I had to then flip around and be a striker again. And to be honest, playing as a striker and attacking player, that came natural to me. I always think I had the technical ability, but it was just when you put so much effort and focus into something, it's just sometimes it's so difficult to turn around. And learn another position. I feel like I was just wading water, like I wasn't making any progress, you know. So that first 6 months was tough, I think.
Okay, and then what was the turning point for you? Was there a particular match or training session where you gone, that's it, yeah, I'm back. I'm a striker again, and I'm ready.
So yeah, so honestly, for about 6 months, I wasn't even playing. Like I played maybe 2 games as a left back because I kind of refused to play as a striker. I was like, I'm not going to do this. And then eventually, after a few months, I was like, as a footballer, all you want to do is play, and all you want to do is get minutes. And he was like, I need you to be a striker. And eventually, I caved in, and then started playing as a striker in training. You know, working hard to try and improve as a striker and get those tendencies back. And then COVID hit, COVID situation, Hong Kong, everything was shut down. We weren't training that much. And I remember, I think honestly, for about 6 months to a year when we weren't playing, or we were playing on and off but didn't have any games, that's when I really, really focused in on some of the weaknesses I had that I felt like I needed to improve to become, you know, a good striker again. I remember spending hours and hours down at Victoria Park or anywhere where I could find a wall, and I was working on so many different things: first touch, right foot, turning, whatever it was, just to try and get those tendencies back as to play as a striker again. And you know, through doing that, and then I remember we started off again, and the first 3 games I scored 2 hat-tricks in the first 3 games in Hong Kong. And then just kind of from that,
Just
working so
exploded.
hard over COVID, just kind of exploded, and had a massive first season in Hong Kong. Had like 14 goals or something. Yeah, and that's kind of just where things changed. That self-belief came back. I was like, okay, I can do this. Got back into the Hong Kong, or got into the full Hong Kong team for the first time. Scored on my debut against Iran, and yeah, it kind of just, the momentum kept going from there.
You know, it's another really good example of how you've turned like a moment of, weakness or difficulty into a moment of strength, and you've seized the moment. But you touched just there on the Hong Kong call up. How did it feel to get called up for your country for the first time, pulling on the shirt, scoring the first goal? Can you talk us through some of the emotions?
Yeah, look, I mean, to be selected for the full national team, I think that was obviously very special. That was always a massive goal of mine as well, was to represent Hong Kong and play for the full men's national team. But you know, I always felt, you know, when I was playing well in Hong Kong, I always felt that that number 9 shirt would be mine eventually. That's something I always firmly believed. You know, and when I finally got that call up, and I remember when I went into the first game against Iran, one of the best teams in Asia, we traveled to Bahrain. Unfortunately, no fans because of COVID, so that was kind of disappointing. But you know, I kind of didn't know what my role would be as a first-time debutant in the Hong Kong team. And I remember the coach Mishu at that point, he sat me down and he brought me into the hotel where he was staying at in Hong Kong, and we had a long meeting for about 2 hours. I was still young at this time, and he was basically saying like I would be the main man, and you know, he wanted to build the team around me. So hearing that was very special, and I was kind of taken back as well because I wasn't really expecting it at that point. And then, you know, playing against Iran on my debut was such a tough game because they were so dominant. But I remember, yeah, I had one chance in the game late on when we were already 3-0 down, and ended up scoring a header. So that was very special as well.
And heading's become a big part of your game. Do you think that was again from the centre back days where you've learned that ability more? You're heading it more often, or something you're always good at?
Uh, yeah, maybe. But I think my finishing has always been my strength. You know, I've always really focused on my finishing from even when I was a defender in the US. I was always doing extras and finishing after training, which didn't really have any kind of correlation, but just love finishing, love shooting. So I've always been doing many extras and finishing. So yeah, I think it's probably just come from just the extras and hard work I've put in that department.
And jumping back to the Hong Kong career again, sorry, I went a little bit off tangent, but someone saying that they want to build a team around you, that must give you like such a huge confidence boost, and then scoring on the debut. and you're exploding for Kitchee at that point, the 2 hat-tricks early on. Did you just feel you had momentum at that point? Did you see it going the way it went with the Hong Kong national team and all the things you'd go on to achieve with them?
Yeah, honestly, I've from when when you're feeling good and the confidence is high, I feel like um and you really believe in yourself, I really feel like anything is achievable. As long as you're putting the work in and you're doing the right things on a daily basis and you're working hard and you really do believe in yourself, I do think anything is achievable. And I think, we've proved that with the Hong Kong team through qualifying for the Asia Cup or being in the semi-final, getting to the finals at Asian Games. I really am a firm believer in anything is achievable with the right mindset. And, I'm just glad that, I've been able to prove that over and over again.
January 1st, 2024, Hong Kong 2, China 1. Do you remember that match well?
Yeah, of course I do.
For anyone who's watching who doesn't know, the first time in 39 years that Hong Kong beat China, can you describe the atmosphere that day and anything you recall from the game?
Yeah, look, that's always I think that fixture is always massive, because it's more than just football. There's so many political issues around that game as well. But for us, we were just focused on the football, and we understand how much that game means to Hong Kong fans and the football community, and we really wanted to give our best to try and make them proud and make ourselves proud. And I think us being such a small region and them being such a big force, maybe we're the underdogs every time, but we really showed up that day and played extremely well, and actually I'd say dominated the game. So it was a great result and a great feeling. And yeah, that's definitely another achievement with the Hong Kong team that we won't forget.
And then from there, that was kind of in the build up to the Asian Cup anyway in Qatar, right?
Yeah, that was the last friendly, I think, before the Asia Cup.
And then we've got, I was looking at some stats on the Asian Cup. We had an average attendance across the tournament of 30,000 people. What did it feel like playing in front of those type of crowds? And, there was such a huge fan base from Hong Kong. Could you hear them when you were on the field? Did you feel that connection with the country when you were playing?
Yeah, look, Hong Kong, for how we played in Qatar and for how many fans came over and supported us, that was incredible. And hats off to them, and we're so grateful for their support, and that really pushed us through hard moments in the game. We ended up losing all 3 games, but for Hong Kong to be back in the biggest major tournament in Asia, it was very special, and I think speaks a lot on how hard we've worked over the last few years, and the potential that we do have in the team. And obviously we hope that we can qualify for the next one. But just for myself personally, to have that opportunity to represent my home and in the biggest footballing competition in Asia was it was definitely so far the highlight of my career, and probably will end up being the highlight of my career. Just playing in the World Cup stadiums against some of the best players in Asia, it was literally just like what you dream of as a kid. And I really tried to just enjoy it as much as possible and just be present and take it all in. And that whole experience being in Qatar for a month, I'll definitely never forget it. And hopefully we can be back in Saudi Arabia for the next one.
And with all those positive things that are happening with the national team and your love of Hong Kong, it must have been a very difficult decision to leave Kitchee to go to Guangxi. How did that all come about? And did you enjoy the move across to China to play for your club sides?
Yeah, look, when I came back to Hong Kong and first time with Kitchee, my ambition was always to eventually end up playing in China, and specifically in the Super League. So that was always a target that I had from when I first came back to Kitchee. But I knew it started at Kitchee. So after having that first blow up season, just after COVID, and then ended up going to the Asian Champions League after that and playing really well in that. Scored a goal in that as well, and then had a very good second season with Kitchee, playing more on the left when Damjanovic came. He was instrumental for me as well. Probably the best striker ever in Asian history. So I learned so much off him, and he was also a great person, and we were really good friends as well. So yeah, I ended up having a very good second season, and this was kind of when I had offers coming in from China. I knew it was just a matter of time at that point. And then Guangxi ended up coming in, offering a transfer fee for me, and I felt like that was the right time to go at that time. And I was ready for that next challenge and to get out my comfort zone and push myself again and take the next step towards my ultimate target, which was the Super League. So it was tough. It was tough leaving Hong Kong and tough leaving my comfort zone and a place that I was very happy and content with where I was at that time. But I felt like it was very necessary, to push myself and take the next step and the next challenge. So, my decision was purely based on footballing reasons and nothing else, because I ended up moving to Guangxi, which was in rural China. So it's not like I wanted to go live in rural China or anything. There was just another sacrifice I had to make for the betterment of my football. So yeah.
And then in terms of Guangxi in your career, in total, I think you made 41 appearances and had 18 goals, but 15 of those came in your second season. And
yeah,
what happened between that first year and the second year, and then how did you use that like as a springboard to get to what you already mentioned, which was your ultimate goal to play in the Chinese Super League?
Yeah, so I went over to Guangxi, and the first 6 months was a struggle. Was another big hurdle that I had to overcome. I think I just found it so tough, just moving into a new team where the language barrier was big, because I could speak Mandarin, but not to a point where I felt so comfortable I could mingle with everyone and, form good relationships with everyone yet. And no one really spoke English. Only a couple of the foreigners spoke it well enough. So I think adapting to a new environment was hard. Living in rural China was extremely hard, especially coming from Hong Kong, where, you can't go out to restaurants to have food that you like. There's no coffee shops. That was very difficult. And then just a new league, League One China is very physical. The starter play is different. It's quite direct. So yeah, so many different aspects came into one where it was tough to adapt to, and I needed some time to adapt. So those first few months were really difficult in Guangxi, but I think I only scored 3 goals, 3 assists, I think, which was not up to the standards that I expected from myself.
So how did you adapt your playing style? You mentioned direct physicality. How did you adapt that in the second season to have such an impact?
Yeah, so I remember we had a 2 month off season, and I put in so much work in that off season, working on different parts of my game, which would help me more in League One. I worked on my strength a lot, worked on my hold up play a lot, which is very important in League One. And yeah, just I remember just being so hungry and so determined to come back and prove to everyone why I had went over. And even at that point, which probably not many people know, was the Guangxi actually wanted to let me go. But luckily fortunately I still had a contract for another year, but they weren't satisfied with what they essentially had paid for, right? So because I was
Good thing you signed a
underperforming.
2-year deal.
Yeah, so I was underperforming, and which was fair. Like that's the world of football, and I was so hungry to prove myself right and prove other people wrong, because obviously people were talking behind the scenes. So yeah, I just put in so much work, and I was so focused in that second season. I knew coming in what I had to do, and um, and it was kind of make it or break it for me that second year, right? Because if I had similar performances, I probably wouldn't have got another opportunity at another team in China. So I was like really nailed down on the second year and made sure that I'd be successful.
And you certainly were successful. You earned the call up. You got the transfer to Shenzhen Peng City this season. So a member of the City Group and playing in the Super League. So all your dreams kind of happening at once. How did that feel, and how have you settled into life in Shenzhen?
Yeah, look, I mean, I think what I did in that second year was probably more than I expected. Ended up 15 goals in the Player of the Year, which was pretty incredible, especially for a Hong Kong player. So from there, I really thought I put myself in a position where Super League wasn't inevitable. And luckily, I had some options in the Super League and ended up choosing Shenzhen for various reasons. I think I watched the team many times in League One which they ended up winning. But I really liked their style of play. Spoke to the coach a few times before I signed, and it felt like the right move for me and followed my instinct. So I ended up signing with Shenzhen, and look, Shenzhen's so close to home, which is very convenient for me, where I can dip back and see family, friends whenever I want, and they can come up and watch the games as well. And Shenzhen's a fantastic city, I think, developing so quickly and on the rise. So yeah, I'm very happy here, and hopefully I can be here for a while.
So you've already, throughout, this chat, you've outlined a number of your goals, and you've gone on to achieve nearly every one of them. So I guess the question now is, you've already played in the Chinese Super League, you've represented your national team, you've played in the Asian Games, you've been given the Tatler Leader of Tomorrow status as well. So what does the future hold for you, and what's your dream now?
Yeah, I think, look, for the future, I don't like to think too far ahead, because I think it's very important to just be focused on what I need to do right now and in the present. Obviously, I have my own goals, which is I really want to establish myself in the Super League. I haven't had the opportunities that I would like to this season, and haven't had the minutes that I would like. So I'm really pushing to keep improving every day and start to get more minutes and hopefully get more goals in the Super League, and try and become more established as one of the top local strikers in the league. That's kind of my main focus right now. And off the pitch, I really want to start trying to use my increased platform to try and inspire, motivate, and give back to the community as much as possible as well. So I'm trying to get involved with more initiatives off the pitch and just become more connected with the Hong Kong community, or the community over here, to start taking more responsibility and doing new things.
I'm certainly hoping that Sport and Purpose and Matt Orr can collaborate in the future, and
definitely
use that platform that you mentioned to help people through sport. Before I let you go, Matty, we're going to do some quick fire questions. So again,
okay.
Very short, hopefully short answers, and get more of an insight into how you think and some of your how you live your life essentially as well. So, right, first one, nice easy one. Messi or Ronaldo?
Messi.
VAR, yes or no?
No. Are these just quick fire, no explanations or anything?
You can expand on it if you want. It's up to you.
No VAR. I just think VAR is a pain.
It's got better in the Euros though, no?
Yeah, but we've just been Shenzhen. We've just been shafted so many times this year on VAR. It's like got no time for anymore.
Club football or international football?
I think international football at a major tournament, but club football throughout the year, I think, is good fun.
Your favorite football team in Europe?
Liverpool.
I might have to stop recording now. All right. Favorite player of all time?
Stevie G, Steven Gerrard.
Imagine walking out with your favorite player of all time. That must have been ridiculous.
Yeah, it was insane.
Favorite formation to play in?
4-4-2.
Any superstitions or pre-match rituals that you have?
No, actually, I just like to be as relaxed and as calm as possible before games.
What's your worst habit?
Probably biting my nails.
Cooking at home or eating out?
Eating out. Pretty shocking in
And
the kitchen.
uh, what's your favorite post-match meal?
I've been a big fan of Shake Shack after a win in Shenzhen recently.
Shake Shack,
Yeah,
if you're listening, you need to reach
there's
out.
Shake Shack just downstairs from where I live. So yeah, after a nice win, it's nice to have a bit of comfort food.
I think I know the answer to this, but I'm going to ask anyway, just to make sure. Your favorite boots?
Vapors, Nike Vapors.
All right. Music or podcasts?
Music.
Cardio or strength training?
Cardio.
Morning training or evening training?
Morning.
What's the best way to recover after a game?
Sleep definitely.
And you mentioned a few times in the interview some of your increasing professionalism and how you recover. How do you find the ice baths? I saw a few videos with you and those.
Yeah, honestly, when you first start on them, they can be grim, but they've literally become a daily thing for me. I don't know how many years now, so I'm so used to them. But they're still obviously cold, but they're so beneficial. Like, it's just worth it.
Best goal you've ever seen?
I think best goal I've ever seen on TV, or the one that always sticks out to me, was when Liverpool played West Ham in their FA Cup final, and Gerrard scored that volley to make it 3-3 from like 30 yards. Just like what it meant, and at the time, and thinking they were going to lose to equalise, that's the one just sticks out to me the most.
He was injured at that point of the game as well, wasn't he? He was like hobbling
Yeah,
along, could barely
yeah,
run.
it was cramping. It's cramping so much.
And it's funny how like you can remember those goals so vividly. Like, can you remember where you were, who you're watching with that
Yeah,
particular game?
I was watching it with my dad, just at home with my dad, and yeah, I don't know, that one just sticks out. And just thinking about it, the best, not probably not the best goal in terms of quality I've ever seen, but was when we needed to draw the game against Vissel Kobe in the Asian Champions League for Kitchee to qualify for the first time ever, and we were 2-1 down. Literally the last kick of the game, we had a corner, and Raul Baena scored a header, and everyone went nuts. And we ended up qualifying for the first time ever for Kitchee to the knockout stages. So yeah, that obviously wasn't the best goal I've ever seen, but just what it meant, I think that stands out as well.
Not that goal I scored from 10 centimeters out for DP.
That would have been the best goal I've ever scored. That you robbed off me.
What is the best goal you have ever scored?
The best goal I ever scored, probably, I scored a really nice goal for Hong Kong against Afghanistan to win that game, which we ended up qualifying for the Asia Cup off. That was a really big game. So I think, and that was just outside the box, 20 yards, smashed it. I'd probably say that's my favourite goal as well.
I'm assuming it was left foot.
Yeah, the right one's just to stand on, mate.
What's your best attribute in football?
I think my mindset, just my mentality.
And apart, you mentioned the mindfulness and the meditation, and is there any other way you strengthen your mindset?
I think I like to listen to a lot of podcasts and interviews from some of the world's best, and I think for mindset, it's something that you develop over time. I think the misconception is you're either born with it or not, but I think it's something you develop over time from your experiences, from your setbacks, from your failures, from your bouncing back, and I think you just learn to deal with stuff much better. So interviews from some of the world's best and podcasts, I think, and reading books has helped me a lot.
Any particular books jump to mind? Anyone you'd recommend for the listeners today?
For podcasts, I'm a big fan of the Chris Williamson podcast and the High Performance podcast. I think those two podcasts are very good. And for books, he has a series of books which I think are all very good from Ryan Holiday. He has The Ego is the Enemy, The Daily Stoic. I can't remember any of the other ones off the top of my head, but he has a series of 4 or 5 books that I'd highly recommend to anyone. They've helped me massively, and I've read them more than once. Ryan Holiday is his name, but
I'm checking them out.
Get on them. You need to get on them. They're very good.
Social media and technology, good or bad for you?
Good. It depends on how you use it, but for me, good. I think it's helped me a lot.
City life or country life?
City.
And very last question is, if you could give one piece of advice to any future athletes, what would it be?
I think just always, no matter what, keep believing in yourself. No matter how hard it may get or how hard it may seem, just keep working hard and keep believing in yourself. Don't listen to the noise outside, and just really focus on your goal and believe that anything is achievable. And also another very good quote I heard the other day from Rory McIlroy, which that rung to me, was, if you don't fear the unknown will be kind to you. I thought that was a very good quote.
Brilliant, Matty. Very wise words. Thanks for your time today. Really appreciate it. Thanks for everything.
Yeah, of course, mate. Pleasure. Thank you, man.
Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you did, please make sure to hit the subscribe button, like, and make sure you're following the Sporting Purpose Instagram page to keep up to date with all the latest episodes and lots more sporting content. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you again next week.